will speak to you for a few moments, and then I will introduce you to Miss Fair, who will make a few comments. And then we will hear from a man who knows Los Angeles history, and in particular, that area where this tragedy took place, because he grew up there. And then we will hear from a man who continuously has made it his life's mission to battle these civil rights, extrajudicial killings of marginalized people of color. Again, when I got the call in the middle of the night about this tragedy, it reminded me that even though America is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, we in Black America are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic on top of the COVID-19 pandemic. 1619 representing the year the first enslaved Africans were brought to America. And for 401 years, we have been dealing with systematic racism and oppression. And we have seen this play out now in a profound way during this COVID-19 pandemic, when you consider the unnecessary, the unjustifiable, and the senseless killings of Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick, Georgia, of Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky, of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Trayford Pellerin, a name many of you don't know, but his video is starting to be seen and go viral in Lafayette, Louisiana, where he was shot 9 times in the back on video. And certainly we have become aware, Attorney Douglas and Attorney Gallipo, of Jacob Blake Jr., a young man who was shot 7 times in his back in front of his 3 little boys, 8 years old, 5 years old, and 3 years old. And quite frankly, we now come to Los Angeles, a place where the whole world looks to for entertainment value, the reality TV. The tragedy is, this is reality TV that nobody wants to see anymore. It was enough when we watched George Floyd narrate the documentary of his own murder as he was tortured to death. It was enough that we saw Ahmaud Arbery executed for jogging while black, a lynching in 2020 by that lynch mob. It was enough to watch Jacob Blake Jr. be paralyzed in broad daylight. And we see these 2 justice systems where you literally have a young white man kill people, walk down the street with an assault weapon, and nobody shoots him in the back, nobody kills him. He makes it home uninjured. But yet, Black men like Dijon Kizzee is stopped for riding a bicycle while black, and he pays with his life because of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. This legalized genocide of colored people has to stop. And we are prayerful with the counsel of these great lawyers, this great legal team. This will send a message not only to Los Angeles County Sheriff's Deputy, not only to California, but to all of America. Dijon Kizzee did not deserve to be executed like this in cold blood as he was running away. It is still shocking to me, Carl and Dale, how the police can justify that they're in life or death danger and the person is running away. That doesn't happen to others. It seems to happen disproportionately to Black and brown people in America. And so we're going to lay out the preview of what we think this case is about. But before these learned lawyers address you, we want to have Miss Fletcher Fair, if you can make sure the camera is on her. Yep. Miss Fair, as loud as you can. And Najee, I may ask if you turn your head this way because she might need to take off her mask so they can hear her. Yeah, and speak as loud as you can, Miss Fair.
Hello, my name is Fletcher Fair. I'm the aunt to Dijon. Dijon was my nephew, but he was more like a son to me. After his mother's death, I became a parent to Dijon and his brother Sean. Since 2011, after my sister's death. This is a very heartbreaking for me and my family. All I want is justice for my nephew Dijon. If we could get that, please, I'd be so satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Fair. Thank you, Najee. And I know this is very emotional, Miss Fair. We will try to respect the emotion of this and let your lawyers kind of take it from here. So I am so very honored and proud to work with my friend, brother, mentor, the great attorney Carl Douglas.
Ben, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be a part of what I call a new civil rights dream team. More than 25 years ago, I was a part of the O.J. Simpson dream team. And I am as confident then as I am now that with this team that has now been assembled here, we will do everything that we can to bring justice to Ms. Fair and to the family and the memory of Dijon Kizzee. I have been working in this space for more than 40 years. I've known Ben Crump for more than 25 years. I've known Dale Gallipo almost as long. And we together are committed to put our collective might to fight the County of Los Angeles. This is more than just a case for me. This is part of my life. I was raised on 109th and Dinker, just a few blocks away from 109th and Budlong, where this shooting took place. I have been fighting for the rights of good people like Miss Fair for most of those 40 years. She never thought when she was watching George Floyd's family grieve, or as she was watching Jacob Blake's family grieve, that this would happen to her as well. That's the problem, America, that we continue to face. And it's not going to go away until there is a true change in the culture of law enforcement. But we have a much greater problem here in LA County that this case is really reminding me of. When I heard that Dijon Kizzee was shot more than 15 times in the back, that sounded to me like an execution. And that reminded me of this gang that has been infesting the County of Los Angeles Sheriff's Department that is called the Executioners. LA County has been rife with gangs that were khaki and green for more than 40 years. We have to stamp out those gangs that patrol our neighborhoods with that warrior mentality. It was that warrior mentality that led these officers in what I say is contagious fire to shoot this man more than 15 times in the back. There's no way that they can justify the privilege of using deadly force by shooting this man 15 times in the back or more. It calls out for there being sweeping reforms in the County of Los Angeles. We have to rid this warrior mentality We have to stop the gangs that are patrolling our neighborhoods. I've lived there my entire life as well. And hopefully, it is through this dream team of civil rights icons that we will fight the might of the county sheriffs and bring justice not only to the memory of Dijon Kizzee, not only to his family and Miss Fletcher Fair, but we hopefully will use his memory and his legacy to make there be real change in the county of Los Angeles. There needs to be body cameras on every sheriff deputy so that we can see what's really happening out there in the streets. And everyone has to come together and protest to make sure that justice is finally won. Thank you, Ms. Fair, for inviting me on your team. And my brothers, I look forward to joining you in this fight.
Ms. Fair said, thank you, Carl. I cannot say thank you enough for your lifetime of dedication and passion. We all watched the O.J. Simpson trial, and it motivated many of us young lawyers, your excellence in advocacy. And you all know Los Angeles, you live Los Angeles. And so that's why we had to have you all involved in this. And I know our brother Dale Galipo, our brother from another mother, Dale Galipo has committed his life to fighting, whether it's on Stephon Clark and other high-profile civil rights cases, to saying that Black Lives Matter. And we need to all have people, not just from our community saying Black Lives Matter, but we need people who believe in the Declaration of Independence to say Black Lives Matter, because Dijon Kizzee life matters. The people living there in Carl's home community, life matters. Miss Fletcher Fair, your neighbor's life matters. And so, Dale, if you could share why you feel this is so devastating to the peace and tranquility of Los Angeles County, and then we will open it up for questions for you, Carl, and I.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you, my good friends, Ben Crump and Carl Douglas. And again, my heart goes out to Fletcher Fair and her family. And here we are again, another reckless, unnecessary shooting of a person of color. And one has to wonder, how long is this going to go on? And why is it continuing to go on day after day, week after week? How many families are watching right now concerned that their children, their loved ones, are going to be the next victims? And I not only applaud the work of lawyers like Ben Crump and Carl Douglas, but I want to also say I applaud all of the professional athletes who are standing up. When I see Black Lives Matter on the basketball court, when I see them wearing their jerseys, where I see them not playing in protest, and the actors and actresses and people, the good politicians and the good judges and the good lawyers are standing up. But as Ben and Carl mentioned, this really is a systemic problem, and it cuts deep. The first question is, who are we hiring to become police officers?
That's it.
Some of them may have been the bullies in high school. Some of them may have been people that really couldn't do anything. They go to an academy and all of a sudden they have a gun and they can shoot and kill people. That's the first problem. Second problem is the training. What the law says is you can only shoot someone if it's truly an immediate threat of death or serious bodily injury. Subjective fear is insufficient. It's not enough for someone to say, I was afraid, I thought he might have a weapon, I didn't know what he can do. You have to de-escalate. You have to give commands. You have to give warnings. You're responsible to justify every shot. You're supposed to show a reverence for human life. Deadly force is supposed to be a last resort, only to be used in the direst of circumstances with no other reasonable measures available. Even a gun or knife in someone's hand is not enough. That's the law. But the training is different. The training is you go ahead and shoot someone whenever you want to. Basically, whenever you're afraid, we got your back. And that's what's happening. There's no accountability. Officers are rarely ever prosecuted in LA County. The last 600 police officer shootings, zero prosecution. They don't lose their job. They're not disciplined. They're not retrained. And in many cases, as Carl has indicated, it's a bad. They become a member of the executioners. This has got to stop. And then their superiors, rather than taking appropriate action, are ratifying this conduct. This incident should have never happened from the beginning. As Ben said, what was he guilty of? Riding a bicycle while black? I've handled hundreds of shooting cases, and the vast majority of my clients are people of color. That's the outrage, is the disparate treatment. Why are all the people being shot virtually black and brown? Why are police contacting them? And, you know, here's but another situation. And my goal, of course, is to get justice for the family and to get justice for the decedent. And I'm honored to work with these two great lawyers. But my goal is much bigger than that. And I think many people around the country are sharing that goal. And that is, we need change. We need reform. And it brought joy to my heart to see in the recent protest people of all races, people of all socioeconomic backgrounds standing up and supporting Black Lives Matter. We just need to get the rest of the country on board. And maybe they need to be educated, or maybe they're getting bad information.
Thank you.
But this is a very serious problem. And until we get it resolved, I do not believe there will be peace in this country. We need to unify this country. We need to deal with this problem. We're going to continue to work, and I hope and pray that with the right politicians in office and the right judges and lawyers stepping up, and the athletes in the entertainment industry and all the other people supporting this cause, we will make change, and we'll be able to look back in our lives and say, we really were part of something important. And as painful as it was, out of tragedies came change. And we saved a lot of lives, and we changed perspective for a lot of people. And I feel the rapid racism in the law enforcement is bad, and it has to change, and it has to change now. And I've devoted my life to working on these cases, and I'm honored to be part of this team and to be honored to be part of this movement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. As Carl said, I do feel this is a dream team for civil rights, because so oftentimes when people are killed, their deaths are swept under the rug, especially when they're marginalized people of color for riding a bicycle while black. Let's never forget what this is about. With that, we're going to open it up to questions, and Carl and Dale will be able to tell you all much more about the history of Los Angeles County. And I will keep talking from a national perspective about this epidemic of these extrajudicial killings of Black people in America.
All right, so yes, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom to ask any questions, and we will do our best to get through all of them. All right, so
And
our first,
the video speaks for itself.
okay, so the first question we have here is what was the law that he was supposedly breaking?
Well, I'll go first and then defer to Carl and Dale. He was riding a bicycle while black. It's alleged that he committed a bicycle violation. Attorney Douglas?
What we often find in these cases is there's a vague pretext to justify what eventually is a horrific act. Here, the word is that he committed what's called a code violation. That could be something as benign as riding his bicycle on the sidewalk or against traffic on the street. You never see anyone in the west side of Los Angeles stopped for a code violation.
Nobody.
You never see anybody in Beverly Hills or Santa Monica stopped for a code violation while riding a bicycle. But it is often used by law enforcement as a pretext, in essence, so that they can then, after the fact, justify the interaction that led to a deadly shooting such as this.
Dale?
Right. Well, look, that's a factor that has to be considered in so many of these cases. What were the officers responding to? I mean, be one thing if they were responding someone with a gun that was firing shots at people. They were responding to any call. You had someone that was riding his bicycle. Most likely, he didn't want any contact with the police. And what a lot of people don't understand, they're afraid of the police because they see people beaten, they see evidence planted, they see people being taken to jail for no reason, and they see people shot. So this individual, like many's, doesn't want a confrontation with the police, but rather than handle it and de-escalate and communicate and show respect for someone, they escalate a situation, and within seconds, it goes from an alleged bicycle violation to shooting and killing someone. And that cannot be acceptable. That's at the hands of these officers. They intentionally took their guns out. They intentionally pressed the trigger every time. They knew by doing that, it was likely he was going to be killed.
Dale?
This isn't a choke. This isn't a misput. This is an intentional killing of another human being yet again.
Thank you, Dale. We got a lot of questions, so they tell us as people want to get to their questions. So go ahead, and we're trial lawyers. We will try to keep our answers briefer. Okay.
Has the family filed a court action stemming from his death, and do they plan to? Can you talk about how this will be done?
Procedurally,
yeah, I'll defer to my colleague, Carl Douglas.
Procedurally, we'll file something called a claim for damages within 6 months. We'll then have the option of filing a lawsuit in state or federal court. Once we file the claim, the county has 45 days in which to reject the claim. We'll then have 6 months and we'll decide whether to go into federal court or state court. And those decisions will be made as we progress into the case.
And never, ever take our eye off the focus. We want the district attorney and the attorney general to hold officers accountable if they broke the law. We don't want them to be able to kill Black people and then just go home and sleep in their beds peaceful and think that's okay. That is the wrong message to send. So we never ever take our eye off of getting full justice for all citizens, and especially Black people too. Next question, and then we'll let you take this one there.
What do you think of the sheriff's account of the incident? They said he had a weapon and assaulted a deputy.
Dale?
Well, the sheriffs always give a portrayal of the incident that's not accurate and it's exaggerated. But even if you assume they're facts, even if you assume a punch was delivered in response to him being grabbed or punched, even if there was a weapon that was dropped to the ground, that in no way justifies firing 15 or 20 shots at someone who at that point is visibly unarmed, moving away, being shot in the back without proper commands, without any verbal warning. That is an execution. And the problem is, it might get you into the executioners, okay? But the problem is that is the type of conduct that the district attorney's office should consider, not only in terms of whether that's murder, but at a minimum, is it at least manslaughter? Because manslaughter is the shooting of another human being, even if you say it's in self-defense. If that is unreasonable, then that's manslaughter. So the analysis always seems to be it's murder or nothing. I think many of these officers should be charged with assault with a deadly weapon or manslaughter. If anybody other than a police officer had shot a guy under similar circumstances, they'd be in prison right now, no bail. But they're two police officers who did it, they get a pass.
Okay, thank you, Dale. We got about 15 questions waiting in the queue, so we're gonna keep moving. Yes, next question.
How many times was Mr. Kizzee shot and where on his body? How do you know? Are you requesting an independent autopsy?
I'll let Carl handle this one, but we know based on the video, there were more audibly 15 shots. We haven't had a forensic videographer break it down for us yet, but we will. I defer to Attorney Douglas.
And typically in these cases, an independent autopsy can be done. It's clear the cause of death is by a bullet wound, but the autopsy that will be done will have a better sense of the number of shots, the direction, and where on his body he was injured. It's clear, though, that there were multiple shots that were fired and that he was not armed at that moment.
Thank you, Carl. Next question.
As Mr. Crump noted on Twitter yesterday, the two officers involved in the shooting were not wearing body cams, making it impossible to create an accurate timeline of events. Is there additional footage of the shooting, possibly recorded by local residents or nearby security cameras that you all are trying to get a hold of?
Yes, there are several videos being presented to us. Dale, I'll let you take this one. Dale, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry, you just stalled for a second. Yes, I've seen various cameras that are coming out now. One of them I saw earlier today has audio, and that's where it's shocking how many shots. I think it's 20 shots. And putting the cameras together, it appears that almost all the shots happened as he was faced away from the officers, moving away from the officers. That's why I believe the autopsy will show that almost all the strikes to his body were to the back. With respect to the body cameras, I think we all agree every officer should wear a body camera, period, that's having contact. And why the sheriff's department does not have their officers wearing them is disappointing.
Yeah, especially when you think of something as benign as a code violation. I mean, it's like this man is dead because of a code violation. When we think about all the reasons Black people get killed in America, driving while Black, walking while Black, when Botham Jones situation in his own apartment, living while Black, you know, and now it's riding a bicycle while Black. I mean, it's just enough to make you want to holler when you think about it. I'm sorry. Next question.
Do you know if these officers have a history of use of force complaints?
I'll defer to Carl on that question.
One of the things that we will do once our lawsuit is filed is to learn about the history of each of these officers in terms of whether they've had any prior acts of force and whether they've had any citizen complaints lodged against him. That will be a process that we will learn as we get into the litigation of the case.
Thank you, Carl. Next question.
Have you spoken to any eyewitnesses to the shooting itself?
We have been contacted by some eyewitnesses, yes. And I'm going to defer to Del Gallipo, but we will have investigators take statements, and they have been given, we have a lot of video, and that's the encouraging thing about all of this. Apparently, a lot of people got their cell phones out when they saw this transpire. Mr. Gallipo?
Yes, a lot of video is coming in. That's been very helpful. I think based on the video alone, the shooting is obviously excessive. Remember, there's two parts to being excessive. Whether they should have shot at all, and I would say under these circumstances, they should not have shot at all. But the second part is how many shots. They're responsible for every shot. The witnesses we're going to get formal statements from, and I'm assuming they're going to confirm what we already see on the video, and they'll be part of the case as well.
And I want to encourage any witnesses out there, please reach out to my office, Attorney Carl Douglas' office there in Los Angeles, Attorney Dale Gallipo in Los Angeles, Najee Ali, activists on the ground. We want you to come forward. I know some people are afraid to get involved, but please, please, it was Fletcher Fair this time. It may be on your doorstep next time if we don't do something about this. So we're encouraging all witnesses to get in contact with our law officers immediately. Yes, next question.
Have we heard any updates about the LASD's independent investigation?
Attorney Douglas?
It will likely, no. The answer is short answer is no. It will likely take 6 to 8 months before there's an investigation. As we've said, the district attorney's office will run a companion investigation. I am not encouraged, based on the past history of our district attorney, that she will see fit to bring criminal charges, but I'm hopeful, and I'm always hopeful. So there will not be a release of that information, certainly for the next 6 to 8 months.
And I'll say this, the district attorney's investigation to me is a joke. I don't even know why they do it. 600 shootings in the last 4 years and not one indictment. And then they have the nerve to write that the shooting was justified. And then they find all these shootings to be within policy. If this shooting is in policy, you got to wonder, what is this policy and how bad is it? I mean, to me, it is absurd and a joke, and they really should be ashamed of themselves.
To be clear, Jackie Lacey did prosecute one officer out of 600.
Was that for shooting or something else?
One, just one.
For what did she prosecute him for? I'm sure it wasn't riding a bicycle.
Well, and that's why I'm so honored to be with these great advocates for their city, Los Angeles, and for civil rights. It really is going to be an opportunity to educate people on what has been happening in Los Angeles County. Such a high-profile case is going to engage and educate the people, especially as we go forward to the elections. Our next question.
What is justice in this case?
I think it's your turn, Dale.
Well, I think it takes many forms. First of all, appropriate criminal prosecution, if you ask the family, is part of justice. Second of all, a change in training, a change in policy, a change in the culture. Next would be fair compensation for the family in the civil case would be justice. And maybe some commitment by the sheriff's department and other law enforcement agencies that they're going to make serious change in how they deal with people of color and what they can do to limit these shootings, because America is getting tired of these shootings. You know it's bad when the NBA that we all love is canceling games because of these shootings. So let's get it together. I don't know what the issue is, but they need to talk to these officers and explain to them this will not be tolerated any further.
Thank you. Next question.
It appeared in video and from the sheriff's office account that the gun fell on the ground, meaning he did not have it in hand when he was shot. Has the sheriff's office given any reason to why he was shot when he was not armed?
Attorney Douglas, I'll defer to you.
They probably will not give an official version. They'll keep that inside. The office, Dale and I, even Ben knows what they're going to say. The officers are going to say that he was making a motion, that it made me think like he was reaching for the gun, that we were in fear for our lives, and that's why we opened up. 15 or more shots says contagious fire. One officer sees something, starts shooting, and the other officer shoots just because the one officer is shooting. because that's the warrior culture that inundates law enforcement departments nationwide, and none less so than the county sheriffs in Los Angeles County.
Thank you so much, Carl. Next question.
Let's see. A lot of these are repeats at this point. Here's one. Although there is no body camera, do you know if the mic's on their person, which is recorded inside the cruiser? Sorry.
Mr. Gallipo?
We don't know that. They could have had digital recorders on. I find generally, having handled hundreds of these cases, that if the audio or video helps the police, they present it. They want to show it. If it doesn't, they say the camera wasn't working, the battery was dead, they forgot to turn it on, it inadvertently went off.
Yes.
What is very telling is what I listened to earlier that has the audio of the shooting from one of the neighbors' homes. And that is incredible. The number of shots and the length of time from the first shot to the last shot is unbelievable. You hear that and it is chilling.
Yeah. And Carl and Dale, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it Los Angeles that they had evidence of police turning off their body cameras and so forth?
We have a long sordid history, Ben, in both the city of LA and the county of official efforts to thwart justice. The LAPD had a scandal many months, years ago, about officers in the Southeast Division removing their body camera, taking off the antennas from the top of the cars to interfere with the projection of the images there. So no one wants to have their law enforcement actions scrutinized, but now's the time. We have to move away from this warrior mentality into a guardian mentality, take the tanks and the tear gas off the streets and get into a guardian sense so that we can really protect and serve.
Amen.
Another thing I want to say, Ben, this isn't anyone who thinks this is just a few bad apples. They don't understand what's happening. It's not just a few bad apples. It's the majority of the law enforcement officers. That's what people need to understand. And I get it. If you haven't lived it, if you don't do it for a living, maybe you don't have the knowledge and information. It's not just a few bad apples. It is the majority of law enforcement. Ben, we had the issue of turning off the body cams in the Stephon Clark case came up immediately after the shooting. Someone asked me about 5 years ago, Mr. Gallipo, what do you think about this body cam issue? I said, oh, I think it's great. There's only one problem. What's that? If the body cameras don't help them, they're going to say they forgot to turn them on or they were broken. And that's exactly what's come to pass. So is that real transparency? If the video helps them, they want to show it all day long on television. Yep. Okay? If the video doesn't help them, they hope to God. In fact, they go around getting people's cell phones and cameras and trying to destroy the evidence so no one sees it.
Thank you, Dale. Next question.
Sure. So I think we have time for one or two more. We
got about 18 questions waiting.
I know.
This underscores how important an issue this is and just how important the city of Los Angeles is to the national conversation. Yes, ma'am, Kelly.
Do you have any sense of why he ran away from the deputies when first confronted?
Attorney Douglas, I have a thought, but I'll defer to Attorney Douglas.
I didn't hear the question. Dale answered the question. I didn't hear that question.
Repeat the question.
Okay, the question is, do we have any idea why he ran away from the deputies?
I have a thought, and then I would defer to my most able co-counsels. He's Black in America. Look at what has been transpiring with law enforcement interaction with Black people in America. I mean, just look at the videos. I'm not talking about Alton Sterling and Philando Castile and Terrence Crutcher and Michael Brown and Tamir Rice and Laquan McDonald and Eric Gardner and Walter Scott. I'm talking about what has happened in 2020 when you are a black man and you have an interaction with law enforcement. Do you think they're going to greet you warm and fuzzy based on what we are seeing play out in America? And so I think Ms. Fair is absolutely right. He was scared. That's why he ran. I don't know if you all have been saying that.
I agree with you, Ben. I think, look, nothing good is going to come out of that contact. And I guess conservative people might say, well, gee, why didn't he just stop? But they don't live in that person's shoes and they don't understand. And the problem is the police are coming so aggressive, sometimes with weapons in their hands in such an aggressive way. It's not like, hello, sir, good afternoon. Can I have a word with you? It ain't like that. Yeah, they're coming at you like they're going to attack you, and you're trying to defend yourself and get away from them. Hope to God nothing bad happens, and then they shoot you in the back. So really, you can't win.
Yeah, and Carl, you grew up there. What is the interaction like when police confront people who live in that community?
We have been terrified of the Lenox Sheriff's Department for as long as I have been alive. I was 10 years old at Washington High School watching the National Guard stage there during the Watts riots. And it has always been a community that has been terrorized by the county sheriffs that patrol the unincorporated portions of Los Angeles, which is where Westmont is and which is where this shooting occurred. So there's two Americas, needless to say. On the west side, west of the San Diego freeway in LA, there may have been a different reaction. But in my community and in that community, you see why people are distrusting of the police and their first instinct is to move away.
Yeah. There's two justice systems in America, as we keep arguing, one for Black America and one for white America. And that reality is look like every other week with a new hashtag. Next question, Kelly.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question before we have closing statements today. Can you tell us more about Mr. Kizzee, where he grew up, where did he go to high school, what did he do for a living, what was he interested in, was he married, did he have children?
Doesn't matter.
You want to, Miss Fair, do you want to say anything about him?
It really doesn't matter where he came from or what he did. When you got your hands up and you're running and scared, it doesn't matter where you're from. He was born right here in Los Angeles, California, UCLA Medical. He was a good boy. He went to school, Bret Hart Junior High. He went to Washington part-time until he moved out. His mother moved him out of the neighborhood and moved him up to Lancaster. So he was doing fine. He went to a continuation school up there. I don't know the name of it. His mom just took it. But he was never a bad person to take anybody's life or do anything wrong. He helped his mother. His mother was sick, had a bad car accident. Spine was messed up. She was in traction for months. He took care of his mom and his little brother. He had his mom. He gave her medicines. He took her around. He took her back and forth to hospital emergency rooms when she kept getting infections in her back, when she had back surgery. So he was just a normal human being, as anybody else. Like I told the police, he's human. He's just like you. And if you have kids and sons, you should feel the same way I'm feeling right now. You should be very damn scared. If you have, especially a black son going around here, they can't walk, can't ride a bike, can't breathe, can't see. They can't do anything. They have there's no happiness in their lives. They're constantly dodging cops. And lady, I've seen it. I went to work 2 weeks ago. There's a body laying right here on Vermont Square. Boy's dead. Cops right there all over the place. This is the second time I went to work, and it's the same spot. Vermont Avenue at night, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. You can't even come down there harassing you. They're constantly harassing. You can't drive. Don't be by yourself because they're coming for you on the street. I see everything around here. I watched them kill a boy right here on 79th in Vermont. I parked my car. They asked the child to get out the car. The boy put one leg out and they started shooting him. He didn't have a chance to stand up. So I know what goes on in this neighborhood. You people don't. And for my nephew to have his hands up and drop the bike and run and try to get up and somebody tackle him and shoot him in the back.
Yes, ma'am.
And as I can see and recall his head, I'm damn mad, lady. And all the questions in the world. And whoever says what, I don't care. I know they killed my nephew, and I love him just like you love yours if you have any. So I don't need any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fair. We will have the final statements. We'll start with Attorney Douglas. That was very emotional for me, Ms. Fair, because I think you articulated the pain and the aggravation and frustration of many African Americans in Los Angeles and around America. Attorney Douglas.
And what Ms. Fair really says is what we all fear as parents of Black and brown people. We watch the family of George Floyd, and we hope not us. We see the family of Jacob Blake, and we hope it's not us. And then in the blink of an eye, it becomes us, and it's all more real. I pledge with this dream team to use everything in my power and influence to bring justice to the memory of Dijon Kizzee.
And I'd like to say to everyone, this should not only be the fight of people of color. This should be the fight of all people. There's right and there's wrong. And in God's eyes, I can assure you, killing people of color over and over and over again is wrong. Everybody needs to stand up for what they know is right for all people, and particularly of the people of color and Black Lives Matter. And I want to encourage people to stand up for what you know is right in your heart. And I want to continue, I want to tell people to get out and vote, because we need a change in this country, and it starts at the top. We need a change, and we got to deal with this issue. And I'm going to do whatever I can in my power to make a difference and to save lives, particularly Black lives.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
And I join my mentors, brothers, friends, Carl and Dale, Ms. Fair. I'm very emotional listening to you lay out your heart about your nephew, because to many people, he would just be a hashtag, and to others, they won't even give him the consideration of being deserving of due process and equal justice. They will try to justify as if he is the cause of his murder at the hands of the people who are supposed to be professionals. And so I'm so honored to work with Carl and Dale on this matter, because I think it's going to be a very, very important case. And I absolutely believe it's going to shed a light, Najee, as America is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to make them aware that we in Black America have to deal with that pandemic, and we have to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think Dijon Kizzee, because what happens in Los Angeles is magnified unlike any other city in America. I think that's what's going to happen. And so with these great lawyers, we will fight to expose the injustice. I am horrified what Carl Douglas said about the executioners. We will fight to expose this excessive force that Dale talked about, because the hope is not only will we get justice, maybe we will save the next Black or brown person in Los Angeles County from being executed by the police. Thank you all so much. We will be in contact. Carl, Dale, and I will keep you abreast of whatever filings. Najee, were you about to say something?
Well, the family wanted to make sure that we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, along with your colleagues, for taking this case. We have no faith or trust in the sheriff's department and their investigation. We have no faith and trust in DA Jackie Lacey. Our faith and trust is in you, your colleagues, the Dream Team, as well as the community, the hundreds of activists who have been out there protesting from day one when Dijon was shot and executed by sheriff deputies. So our faith is in you, your team, and in the people of this country who are fighting for justice. So thank you. And in closing, we did create a GoFundMe page. This family is suffering financially also. So anyone that wants to contribute can go to a GoFundMe page, Justice for Dijon Kelly.
Thank you so much
Dijon
for bringing
Kizzee.
it up, because they have to now unexpectedly get ready for a funeral. And I know Attorney Douglas, Attorney Calipo, we will keep you all informed when that date is going to happen. And it's our community. We all got to stand together for Miss Fair. She can't bear this cross alone. She raised her nephews when her sister went down, and you see this as a hard-working Black woman. Let's don't leave her by herself. Attorney Douglas, I think you were about to say something?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Fair.
Thank you. Okay. That's it. Great job. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you did.